And hello, welcome. This is Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. I'm your host, Todd Pittenger from the Rockingham Media Group of radio stations. We have 6 radio stations here in Salina. Most notably, I do news and the morning show on KSAL radio. We also have the Kansas News Network, where we produce network news here in Salina. Newscasts, over a dozen that air on 40 radio stations across Kansas every day. So we stay busy in downtown Salina. Someone else who stays busy in downtown Salina, City Commissioner. He's been a vice mayor. He's been the mayor. He's on the commission now. Should he win re-election, he will be mayor again at some point. Karl Ryan, you've been part of this program before. You're back again. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Well, thank you, Todd. Glad to be here.
We've got lots going on in Salina. Let's delve right into it. First and foremost, I'd like to talk about what's happening with downtown Salina. Since my radio station is downtown, literally every morning I stand in the window and I watch progress every morning. I've seen it from the time the ground was first broken to what's happening now. Give me an update on a couple of different projects. First of all, let's talk about the streetscape project. Essentially, we're tearing up all of the concrete in downtown Salina twofold. A, it's part of the renovation, but B, it needed to be done because we had pipes, some pipes down there that were literally 100 years old, right?
Well, Salina dates back to 1858, yes. And our form of government here is 1920. The city manager form 1921. I grew up living where my family's business is now, just outside of the bid district, and so my childhood, I had a very fortunate childhood to have the YMCA half a block away.
I remember the YMCA.
Consider that.
It's now the Smoky Hill Museum, right, where it was when I grew up.
Well, the parking lot, actually, across the street. And we had the library there, and you could go back and forth. The Cozy Inn was there, so there were theaters downtown. Right. So when I came back to Salina in 1980, and that was after some conflict that went on about how the town was moving south and the interchanges were being built and whether we should have malls.
And should we not build a mall, right?
And should we or shouldn't we not build a mall? So in my time in Salina, you know, I've been all about looking back downtown, and in the last 10 years we've gotten back to that vision, and so I'm really thrilled with the work that we're doing downtown. I think it's about 20 years late, but I'm glad we're getting to it now.
It is the biggest public-private partnership in the history of Salina, what's happening downtown. Let's discuss. It's not all taxpayer money. It's not all just money from the Salina City Commission that's funding it, correct?
That's right. Most of it's financed by STAR bonds, TIF bonds, CID, and the city's portion is in the streetscape work, but the group 2020 group stepped up and backed those bonds as well. So the city isn't on the hook for anything to go wrong, and all of the components down there are thrilling to watch come up. I was in the parking lot of the Masonic Temple a week ago, and I'm a drone operator, and you've been watching it from the street and probably from up above. I've been watching it and taking photos with my drone for the past year to catalog the changes as they come. And I was standing in the parking lot looking at the new overhead structures, and they're just beautiful. You can see the Art Deco pattern in it. It comes off of the buildings on the side. If they can get the tower replaced on the Stiefel Theater and all of that gets lit, it's going to be a fabulous
I've not had a chance to see them at night. I for one, like the overheads. I was in favor of them. I think they look great. They glow at night. I've not had a chance to see them at night, but they light up at night.
I don't think the lights have been put in yet, but they are stainless steel, and you can see the patterns in the relief. They have I'll call it an airway. That's probably not the right name, but it's so the air can pass through them because they are large and would catch the wind.
Now, the 2 bookends pretty much are finished right now, at least of the streets. If you go down to the area, and so I'll do it building-wise so people are familiar. If I just say the 100 block of such and such, people won't be familiar. But kind of get down in the area where the Sonic Drive-In is. The road is finished there in front of Old Chicago, and that it looks fabulous. Then the other end, as you approach the Salina Fire Station, that is finished also. So the 2 ends are finished. We're kind of working in the middle now, right?
That's right, and they've pretty much got half of the street on each side. I think that the production is supposed to, construction is supposed to come to a conclusion in the later fall.
Right.
So
the biggest difference that I've seen, it looks great. They made use, they found some, because you mentioned downtown is over 100 years old, so they've got bricks underneath some of that concrete that are real. They have took those bricks and they've used them in the project. They kind of make up the middle of the street, and then there's 2 lanes. Where downtown used to be 4 lanes, it won't be 4 lanes anymore, correct?
No, it'll be the center lane and 2 lanes to each side. And the brick relief, I think, looks fabulous.
It looks fabulous,
Yeah.
I would agree. And then we're expanding the sidewalk a little bit, so some of the downtown restaurants can maybe have outdoor dining, correct?
Yeah, I think a lot of them will try. We've had 2 applications. I think we have a 3rd one pending already for the new Barolio restaurant. And Old Chicago, of course, already has theirs. And when Blue Sky gets their side of the street towards completion,
it's getting close.
It's getting close, and they'll be right there too. So
what I like about Blue Sky, they've got, I don't know if that's what it is, but to me it looks like a garage door. And they just open up this garage door for big events, and they spill out onto the sidewalk. So
well, Sharp Performance has the same thing down there, and they put 4 of them in, and you can go down and get on your machines and just literally open the door and feel like you're out.
Feel like you're outdoors and part of downtown. Kind of everything that got downtown started was the Salina Fieldhouse, and that was a project that was just a dream, even 5 years ago, just a dream. We didn't know if it would ever happen, but there was a private organization, and again, that's part of the beauty thing about Salina, at least in recent history. A lot of these major projects are public-private, where a private group, it's an idea, they come up with a significant amount of the funding, and then they come to the city, and the city helps with the funding, and then the city eventually kind of sort of takes it over, for lack of a better term, and takes care of the maintenance. But the Salina Fieldhouse really is kind of what got downtown started, is that correct?
Yeah, and that was the vision of the people that participated in that project idea, and then the follow-up with 2020, the whole purpose to drive traffic into the downtown. It's a marvelous building. A lot of people saw the numbers of baseball advocates that were at our last city commission meeting.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
And one of the commissioners asked, how many of you been in the field house? And virtually all 250 people,
I
whatever
think every child raised his hand almost.
Yeah, so it's getting the kind of use that was anticipated, and it's been a very satisfactory in Denver.
Some of the other projects happening downtown, and literally I see them come up daily. I see things change. First of all, the University of Kansas Medical Center, School of Nursing and School of Medicine, Salina, that is open and running. That is beautiful. And to me, I'm not actually a big KU guy. I went to Fort Hays State. But to me, it's very cool to see the huge Jayhawk logo downtown lit up at night, knowing, you know what, we have a medical school, one of the best in the country, in downtown Salina, up and running.
Smallest one in the country, but it's a fabulous asset for Salina, and a big part of their mission is to train both doctors and nurses to remain, hopefully they'll remain in this part of the
I know
state.
some of the nurses in the last graduating class are now at Salina Regional Health Center. That's I mean, we're training people to stay right here in Salina.
We have to thank the Health Foundation and the hospital for making the investments they have. They had $1 million in the field house and substantial sums in the medical school.
And let's talk a little bit about the alley. It's a new bowling alley, and not just a bowling alley, but a family fun center that by the end of the summer will be open in downtown Salina, correct?
Yeah. No, it's an impressive building. It's so close to the street right there. And when you're at the field house, you certainly can't miss it. It's I'm anxious to see what they have inside.
Absolutely.
I know there's going to be a lot of virtual reality kind of and gaming kind of offerings in there besides the bowling.
The field house and the alley are kind of sort of the bookends on the north end right now, at least of the construction area. You go down to the south end, we've got a brand new hotel that day by day is getting closer and closer to completion. Tell me about the hotel.
Well, I don't know a great deal about it other than it's a very impressive.
Yes, it's huge.
Structure there, and I understand they'll have a Yaya's restaurant, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of conferencing facilities that they have.
And I know we'll have
between that and the Masonic Temple across the street, there's a great opportunity to host a lot of different
Yes, and they'll have a Starbucks coffee. So we're going to have coffee houses bookending both ends also. I can go down south and have Starbucks.
I'm not a coffee drinker.
I'm not a huge coffee drinker either, but I like tea. So Starbucks, and then I go to Ad Astra all the time on the north end, which is like 2 buildings down from the radio station. So I've got the yin and the yang of the 2 coffee houses on the 2 ends of the street. So exciting times going on in downtown Salina. Now, tell me about the Lee District. We've got some things going on, maybe some apartments coming in. How's that project coming along?
The folks that are developing that property are, they've got some hoops to jump through. Actually, I'm impressed that they can bring all of the different factors that they need to, because there's state grants and heritage grants and maybe some of the type of taxing vehicles that we had in the new market tax credits for the field house that they're using. But in the first phase, there's a couple phases to it. There's about 53, I believe, apartments that are going to go in there.
And that's a little further north on Santa Fe.
And it's at the corner of Elm, I guess, and the two big brick buildings that are there. It'll have a really nice courtyard in the center, and then the second phase will be in that more south building that's there. So excited to see about that. That's 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Some of it's rent subsidized, and I mean, it'll create a whole community downtown to use the new assets that are being built.
Again, this is Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. I'm your host, Todd Pittenger, from the Rockingham Media Group of radio stations. Joining me, Salina City Commissioner, former Vice Mayor, former Mayor Karl Ryan. And I want to talk about, I think, is probably one of the biggest myths, one of the biggest misnomers. People have for some reason in their head that we have one of the highest sales taxes in the state here in Salina. That's just absolutely not true. I thought that too, and I looked it up yesterday. Matter of fact, I went and did some research. We're barely, if even, in the top 10.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just absolutely not true, is it?
Well, if you look at even all across the board, all taxes, you can look at our school taxes, our county taxes, our mill levy, our sales taxes, our bed taxes are all middle and low compared to the rest of the state. And yet we, through cooperative arrangements and just a community that pools its resources, we're frugal, I think. We manage our assets well. We have a selection of amenities in Salina that's second to none in the state, and we're paying less for it.
Yes, we've been able to keep our tax base affordable, right?
Yeah, I think it's affordable. I know some people just really don't like taxes, and they're a burden.
Yes.
But, you know, I think they're an obligation, they're a responsibility. I'm not, it doesn't bother me for the taxes that I pay, and I'm a homeowner and a business owner. People are really getting a good deal on their taxes. We appreciate that the community responded to our request to raise the sales tax a couple of years ago, and actually we're having a little bit of budgeting problem this year because sales taxes haven't come in where we expected, and some of our other projections were off. So we're really fortunate to have that. And we're really trying to make everything balance.
Yes. Well, talk just briefly about that. You mentioned a little bit of budgeting issues, a little bit of a issue with the budget. That being said, people hear that. People shouldn't think that we're broke. We've got money to pay everybody. We got money to go about daily business, right? I mean, people don't need to be worried about that.
Oh, yeah, of course. All our enterprise funds are paying for the services, water, sanitation, refuse that they provide, and the mill levy supports the things that we have in the way of fire and emergency services and police services. We have some bigger ticket items facing us out there that not totally unexpected, at least when it comes to the Schilling groundwater contamination. And then there's also what's come up kind of in the last year is the need to revamp all of our communication services, which has kind of a big ticket on it. So, but all of the other CIP things and budgeting aspects, we're all pretty much in control. And with regards to the Schilling groundwater, we're in a mediation process now with the federal government, the Corps of Engineers.
We're finally making progress in that.
And well, I mean, mediation is a wonderful thing. One of the things I came into office was to hope that we would get out of being in a litigious mode all the time.
Because this is something that's been going on for 20 plus years.
It has.
I mean, I've been at the radio station 25 years, and I know at least for 20 years, I've been covering this story about the groundwater contamination. And I think finally, I don't know about you, I think I might be seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel finally, right?
Well, it's a remarkable story that Salina grouped together the school board and the airport authority and the city of Salina
Right.
and
Kansas State
and
University,
got
right?
and got the and Kansas State University and got the federal government to admit that this was a problem that they had created. Yep. The mediation we're really glad to be into. I hope it's successful. Right. I'm not a pessimist, but there is still a possibility of litigation. So if that can be solved, which we hope it is, that should happen before the end of the year. But that will create then to go to the solution right away, and there will be a price tag for the city to pay.
Perhaps sooner than later, the contamination will start cleaning it up then, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it's not an imminent danger to Salina.
No,
nobody should think that. I mean, it's decades before it would ever be a danger to our water supply. But that's a much more favorable outcome than if we go into litigation and we're into that for years.
Absolutely.
Because we're not that big of a town. We have to remember we're only 50,000, and fighting the federal government would be a big project.
Yes. All right. But before I let you go, you have one of the more unique terms, I think, in the history of the Salina City Commission. It's the rare 5-year term, isn't it? Because the way the election law changed when you first went into office, we changed when we do the City Commission election. We moved it to November. So essentially, you've had a 5-year term, right?
Yeah, we got an extra 9 months out of it, and we had a choice to align ourselves with the regular cycles, but I think all of the commissioners at that time felt that that would politicize the process if we were mixed in with the federal and the state elections, so chose to make it independent. I don't think any of us were thinking about it giving us a longer term.
No, I don't think so either.
It's the way that it turned out. Yeah.
So that being said, after 5 years of this, I guess maybe you're a glutton for punishment because
that's what my wife says.
Because you're running for re-election.
I am running for re-election, and my wife's not very happy about that. But
so happy wife, happy life. What happened to that?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the second time around she'll be more patient about it. But everybody that runs, they expect to have a little wind in their face. People are going to be critical, but I don't know if it's just unique to me, but in my circumstance, there's been some personal things generated, and that's reflected on my family, and that wasn't very comfortable. But I think the city needs good commissioners. I want to see the downtown projects through, and I'm really what I've come to feel like is that the big issue is about growth, and although north and west of us, our surface area have been declining in population, we've held our pretty well here in Salina. I know there's those out there that are relying on predictions that we're going backwards, but it's a very small loss if it's any at all. And if we're going to grow this community, we've got to make Salina appeal to the millennials and the centennials that are out there in the same way that the churches and the fraternals in Salina and the social groups grew up our generation and created the culture that made Salina home to us. We got to provide those same sort of things for these younger people, and that's why downtown, that's why baseball enterprises, that's why supporting our colleges is all important, because we want to attract population to Salina.
We've certainly seen a lot of growth over the last 4 years, 9 months, and now perhaps if reelected over the next 4 years, maybe I'll have you on this show again, you'll be deputy mayor again, and then soon you'll be Mayor Karl Ryan again. Sir, I appreciate it. The time has flown by. We've got to wrap up. Thank you for joining us. I've learned a lot today. And it hasn't been boring either. It's been fun. Thank you. Salina City Commissioner Karl Ryan. This has been your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. Thank you so much for joining us.